Hello my friends, and welcome to another Last Day on Earth video. Let's jump in to our first video in a series of videos we are calling the Wasteland Survival Guide. What this is intended to do is to deep dive into different topics and different locations, provide some tips, some tricks, and talk about the things that can make you successful. What we plan to do with this series here going forward is, again, diving into a lot of different topics. Today is one that probably doesn't come up very often, but comes up a little bit, I would say, from time to time, especially with what we're going to go and cover, which is taking on the infected forest and the Horde. Let's get to it. Okay, so first and foremost here, we're going to be heading to the infected forest, and you may say, well, Doc, why would you want to do that? Well, in many cases, you don't need to. We are going to be covering a base building tips section here in the very near future. It's one of the most requested videos, and the Horde is something that impacts that very specifically every 24 hours. If you spawned into the game or you're relatively familiar, you're probably running into the Horde, and if you have level 2 walls or below, they're impacting your base by breaking some of your stuff and just making a mess of your base. They don't really do technically a whole ton to you. Obviously, if you're at your base, they can kill you if you're not paying attention. Essentially, you can just leave the location or honestly just walk to the side and avoid them. So the Horde is one of the reasons to go to the infected forest, because in the infected forest is the witch. When you kill the witch, you have a random chance of her dropping her head, which then allows you to create this over here, the witch's head. You can build this, you can then stoke this fire, which essentially allows you to burn her head and will keep the Horde from attacking your base. In addition to that, knocking the Horde out and killing the Horde, or killing the witch, excuse me, at the infected forest will also stop the Horde from coming to your base during its reset period. So that's another important way that you can go and take this down. Should you do this? Honestly, no. The Horde is more annoying when you get to have your base, and obviously we have some pretty hefty level 4 walls here built around our base, but even level 3 walls will repel the Horde. Once you get to that spot in your base building journey, you really don't need to do this. You may, however, need to do it during the course of taking down and setting up for some raids. This is a task that comes up with a relative amount of consistency. Certainly you can skip it if you want for the 125 coins, although it's relatively easy to defeat if you have the right supplies, and that's what we're going to jump into and talk about today. So I want to cover this. We're going to head over there. We'll talk about the best ways to take this down, what the witch can do, a few strategies that I have, in addition to maybe having a little fun as we tackle the witch. So let's get over there. Let's talk about it. Okay, so if you're not familiar, infected forest is just to the east of the gas station, and here's what you have. There's a couple of things to note going into this. The witch is a pretty difficult enemy if you don't do a few things in order to take her down. We'll talk about our gear set here as we jump in before we go to tackle her, but it is important to note that you will need some good gear. You're going to need some good heals. You're going to need to come pretty well prepared for this fight if you want to be able to defeat her without much of a challenge. It's also important to note, in addition to her dropping her head, you can also get big bones. This is a relatively rare drop, very similar to the Ravager at the farm. These are used for a few different things, as well as the blind one in Bunker Alpha hard mode. These are used for some weapon upgrades and a pretty useful resource. You don't need a ton of these over the course of your playthrough as you work on weapon mods and different things, but it is important to note that this is one of the locations that you can get it. You can also see there's some really basic rewards here. This is just related to the additional zombies that are here. This location is pretty interesting, and we'll talk about the phases of this fight, but it goes essentially through a couple of different phases. As we jump in here, you're going to see that there are going to be some, I'll call them basic zombies, but you have some toxic spitters and some floater bloaters that are hanging around. Now, I will tell you that I strongly recommend that you go ahead and you bop these guys and you take care of this fight. Again, they're going to drop the pretty basic stuff. I like to grab the cloth here as well, just to grab this. You can also chop these trees down. In addition to that, they're just going to give you regular common pine logs, so do keep that in mind. You're going to see one roaming enemy here in the middle, which is the witch. Now, if you get too close to engage the witch, she will fight you. So I strongly recommend, as a first tip, work around the perimeter, stay kind of away from her, and you should be fine. She's not going to move too close to the edges where you should be able to do this. She's going to be the only one moving on the map when you first spawn in here. You may have also noticed that we hit these little spined barb bush things. They will do some damage to you as well. They do 2 damage, very much like spike traps, and it's important to note those as well. So again, you're going to see toxic spitters. You're going to see us again just moving around the edge. You're going to get a handful of each of these, and I just strongly recommend taking these out as you go. It just makes the future fight a little bit easier. We'll talk about the next phase once we have an opportunity to knock these out. But as I was talking about, you do want to come into this fight pretty well prepared with different gear. Make sure you have plenty of good weapons. I do think that melee weapons can be helpful, but not the most effective for taking her out. Although you can do it if you want to prioritize melee weapons over saving essentially guns over saving saving guns over heals is what I was trying to say. I can't talk today. We're trying to multitask by cutting up these zombies and everything. You can kill her with melee. It will just extend the fight. She has 2,000 HP, so she is not an enemy to be trifled with. She also has the capability of healing, and we're going to talk about that here in just a second once we clear out. You can see this little gore pod down here right off the side of my screen here, right in the kind of the southwest. And we're going to have to take those things out, and we will showcase how to do that. We'll skip our mod here. Now this should generally take care of this. This also just kind of cleans this fight up. Make sure that no other zombies get pulled in outside of what is going to get pulled in. We'll talk about that phase of the battle here. This is a really unique and kind of interesting looking location, I will say that. So that is pretty cool. Okay, so now if you cleared the exterior with, again, whatever method you so choose, we're going to go ahead and we're going to take out these gore pods. This is a really important piece of this fight because what these essentially do is during the phases of the fight, this is going to allow the witch to heal. She's essentially going to attack you. She's going to retreat. She's going to retreat into her little cave. You're going to get a crowd of zombies and some disease wolves that will attack you and kind of swarm at you. You have to repel that, and then you have to engage her back. She's going to do this twice during the course of the fight, and if you don't take these gore pods out beforehand, they will essentially allow her to heal. So this is a really critical element to being able to do this. As you saw with the raider task, you want to come in to do it. You don't have to do anything special here. You just have to have the necessary items. And we blew this first one up. C4 is going to be the preferred one, and that's the best one to take these out. Let's go and jump over and dodge her and see if we can avoid this other one. And C4, I said, was the preferred and the only, so I do apologize for that. And I made the mistake of not having an additional one. So let's grab our second one here. So we need 2 C4. This is a drain, which is why a lot of people essentially don't take on this fight. You don't have to worry about anything else happening here. You just essentially blow these up. Now, essentially what we have done, like I said, is eliminate her healing capability, which is really, really good. So I am going to swap. I wanted to have some fun with this fight, so I'm going to be rocking the Scorcher here. I do also recommend, interestingly enough, a good crowd control weapon. Once we damage her enough and she goes to retreat, you are going to get a decent swarm of zombies, and once that starts happening, they will not stop. They will continue to approach you and attack as you fight the witch. Now, you can easily repel them. The crowd zombies are very much like the horde zombies, where they don't do a ton of damage. Here's the witch right here. You can see her. Her 2,000 health is a lot. You can see that we can get pretty close to her without her engaging. So that's kind of an important note. I know I'm in the way a little bit, but she is hanging out right there. So it is important to note that you are going to constantly getting attacked. Having companions with you, your drone, your true friend dog is really, really helpful. Having your skill set to self-healing would also be one of the things that I would recommend. Now, attacks-wise, she has a handful of different attacks that range from about 20-ish or so health, I believe, up to and upwards of 90 health. So you do need to stay high health. She has 2 arms, and not unlike the big crushers, You can cut off one of her arms and then subsequently her other arm in the course of the attacks. What this will do is eliminate her most highest damage dealing attack, so then you have a little bit of an easier time taking her out, and you'll see this evolve over the courses of this fight once we jump in to attack her. So some prep beforehand, like I said, having your self-healing skill on, which we don't, again, I'm in the way of. Having some good heals. We're going to have some fun with some different weapons here, but having some good heals and being ready and prepared, and then keeping your health up at the beginning of this fight is really, really important, because she can kind of sneak out of nowhere and deal you a pretty critical blow. So we're going to jump in. We're going to use the Scorcher, the M16 first. Let's get to this. We are going to set her on fire a little bit. Here's her little hollow. I would recommend staying very close to this. You can dodge her a little bit. You saw we took a 33 shot. She has retreated for the first one, and now we get prepared for the crowd zombies. I'm going to go ahead and switch here. Disease Wolf is back. I'm going to go ahead and use the minigun. I'm going to stay healed up. There's the big 80 shot, so be prepared for that. We're going to stay nice and healed up. As you can see here, we have the crowd zombies now coming in. You always get 2 diseased wolves as part of this. Not super, super detrimental. If you come prepared with really good weapons, as you see us here, we're able to knock her out pretty easily. And we killed her actually very, very quickly, to the point where we didn't even take out the arms. These crowd zombies are going to continue to roam in here. This is, interesting enough, a great place to get some season reward progress. If you want to waste some weapons, you can come in here and you can just constantly knock out these crowd zombies once she's been defeated. So that is kind of interesting. You see here that we did not, unfortunately, get any drops from her or anything else from this location. So again, one of those spots where you're not really coming here for much beyond just trying to kill her and hopefully grabbing. I think the chance of getting the head from her the first time that you take her out is a little bit higher, but don't quote me on that. But I do feel like we had a lot of success the first couple of times that we fought her before. Obviously, we've gone and done that a handful of other times. So again, zombies should probably slow down, but would generally continue on working through here. The longer you take this fight on, the worse off it is. You saw that we spent just a handful of medkits, but obviously we used some very powerful weapons to take her down. She retreated twice to get back and forth here, and again, we avoided her being able to heal because both of these gore pods had been eliminated. So hopefully that's helpful for you. Some deep dives. Again, if you wanted to come and you wanted to bring your hatchets, you could take these down, get some basic resources to be able to do that. Now, the nice part here is once you clear this location, again, you will not see the Horde until this location resets in 3 days. So that is a benefit if you want to basically stop that. Again, we'll talk about this in a future video about base building and how you can kind of set yourself up where the Horde essentially doesn't matter, and then build to a point where you don't have to worry about them. So probably not a location that you will clear a ton, but if you are looking for some completion or again, working towards some raider tasks, she also, I think, gives a pretty decent amount of seasonal experience as well. I didn't catch what it was. Most bosses are about in the 500 range, so I'll have to go back and take a look, but if you're eagle-eyed, you'll probably catch it. So worthwhile to come and experience it, take her down a few times. Obviously, being able to make the cool thing at your base and then burning the witch's head is also a possibility. So if you're a completionist and you want to be able to do that, this is the location to do it. And again, save yourself a little bit of headache from the Horde visiting you on the regular. So with that, I hope it was helpful. Again, this is going to be the first in a series of many videos diving into specific locations, topics. If there's anything specific you want to see, please let us know down below. Always open for a ton of ideas. I have a huge sticky note of ideas and some other things that we've already been working on to kind of continue to build this out. We will have a playlist built for this as well. Really, again, this is intended to be good, useful tips and tricks. If there's anything that I forgot as part of this tip video, please let me know. Throw it down below. That way it can become a good resource for anybody looking, whether they're jumping into Last Day on Earth for the first time, coming back to it after a little while, or I've played it for a long time and are looking for some additional tips and tricks and help as well. With that, gonna flash some social. Say like, comment, subscribe, help me out on the YouTube thing. Check out our other playlists. We'll probably have a card coming up here very quickly as we flash the socials. Free to play, as I mentioned, is another series that we're doing and is great if you're just starting out or looking to work towards progressing through story progression. We're essentially just capturing our entire journey and each of the milestones. That has been, I think, a good resource, as well as enjoyable to see us get into some locations, have some fun, face some of the challenges as well. So appreciate all the support. Thanks for stopping in and spending a few minutes of your day with me. I've been Doc. We are the Average Gamer Guys, and we'll catch you in the next episode. Peace.